Namaste and a very warm welcome to another impactful episode of Impact Leaders with Simply Suparnaa, where we feature SABERA Awardees over the past 7 years. As you all know, SABERA is in its 8th edition, and we try to keep the ecosystem interactive, dynamic, trying to connect the dots, sharing knowledge, of course, creating a bridge from the funder to the funded. And today, as usual, we have a very special guest who has been awarded the SABERA Award in the very first few editions of SABERA. It has been FXB Suraksha, which is an organization that works on holistic development of not just children or women, but entire communities. But before I bring on to your digital screen the CEO of FXB Suraksha, I'd like to start by invoking the higher power. Shakti has held me in good stead. And I'd like to start by reciting this very old Sanskrit verse, the Saraswati Vandana. Ya kundendu tushar haradhavala, ya shubhra vastravrita, ya veena varadanna manditakara, ya shweta padamasana, ya brahmachitta shankar prabhutibhi, devai sada vandita, samam patu saraswati, bhagavati vishesh jaryapaha. This old Sanskrit stotra talks about dispelling the darkness of ignorance that resides in our hearts with the wisdom of knowledge. And now, without much further ado, let me bring on to your digital screen Mr. Satya Prakash, CEO, FXB India Suraksha. Satya, thank you so much for doing this for us. I know FXB has been involved in, like I said, holistic development. It's focusing on poverty, livelihood, health, which includes HIV, AIDS, anti-trafficking, education, women protection, and research, considering that you've done so much on-ground work. So there is so much knowledge that you would be able to share with other people on a similar trajectory. Thank you for the work that FXB is doing, and thank you for taking out your time for sharing some of that information with us today.
Thank you, Suparna. And I think I must give this credit to SABERA as well for recognizing our effort in our initial phase, and to let your audience know that we have been recognized for the agri-based initiative which we started in Assam. So that was one of our few farmers club which SABERA recognized, and today we have scaled this from 1 to 30. So I have almost 30 farmers clubs very active in Assam, Manipur, and Meghalaya. And the numbers goes from, that time we had like couple of dozens. Now we have over 5,000 farmers as part of this initiative. So thank you for being part of the journey and recognizing this initiative.
Super. Since you've mentioned the Farmer Club and that's what got you the recognition with SABERA, let's start with that. What exactly is a Farmer Club?
So the idea for us is to recognizing that within the community, and precisely when you are in the rural landscape, and we know that India being the agrarian economy, and most of the population who is in the rural landscape, they struggle to kind of institutionalize themselves. Two, they lack the immediate information which can help them to multiply their productivity, increase the crop production, prevent from, let's say, the climatic distress, etc. And that's where we realize that working in collective is going to be a powerful tool for them, and that's the idea where we started kind of bringing them in collectives, and that's where when you see club, so you're putting together a number of farmers in a group, and you work directly in terms of helping them transfer knowledges, where you learn about crop diversification, you learn about whether your soil is ready for, kind of cultivating X kind of a crop or not. You get some kind of estimation in advance that, okay, there's gonna be a rain, so you shouldn't, overwater your crops, otherwise it's gonna destroy. And then also kind of bringing synergy with the government initiative, so working with KVK, working with state government institution as well as the central government institutions, where you transfer knowledges to them, and so that becomes a very powerful kind of institutional space for us within community. And what is more interesting, that we haven't just got ourselves limited to transferring this farmer and the agri-based information, but also something which can help them to learn about their children health, children education. So that has worked as a platform for us where we can promote and deliver information. So yeah.
So historically, if we were to talk about FXB Suraksha, the focus has been on children, on anti-trafficking. Is that correct?
Thank you, so that also set up a message that where to place FXP India Suraksha, and FXP India Suraksha believes in integration, and the way you or me will talk about the completeness and the holistic development of our own child, where you just don't focus on sending to the best institution but also about health, well-being, etc. So likewise, how do you transfer the same kind of a learning and experience at a community level? So obviously, we primarily look at the entry point to community is women and children, and but when you work with them, different community, different region will have their own challenges, so and be very flexible in terms of managing and mitigating those challenges and offer solutions. And that's where it becomes part of your framework and strategy, that how do you design your solution. And that's where it keeps FXP at a very a designated space, that what may have worked in the south may not work in the northeast, but we have some experience of working in diverse geography and region. So the learning makes us handy to kind of transfer those knowledges. So let's say when you are in Jharkhand, which is, let's say, one of the source reason for trafficking, you may work directly with the adolescent girls, or the vulnerable population who are at risk of being trafficked, and that's where your strategy will be designed from that lens. But let's say when you are in Manipur or when you are in Assam, we realize that aspiration works very well for them. They want to go out because they don't have much livelihood opportunity over there. So how do you offer solution in Assam? So perhaps the solution which worked in Jharkhand may not work well in Manipur or in Assam. So you have to be very flexible, looking at community needs, and accordingly design solutions. So to come back, obviously we think holistically, and what we believe, the rights are very integrated, and violation of one right will lead to violation of another. And that's where you have to place the community or population at risk, who are at risk for different reasons, maybe loss of employability, loss of their dignity, loss of their own rights. Let's say somebody been trafficked or sexually exploited, how do you see them? How do you recognize them? And or out of a school, if you are out of a school, that in itself increases your vulnerability, vulnerable to be pushed into child labor or to child marriages, etc. So that's where it gives effectively that strength to think holistically and design solution accordingly.
Okay. And you have worked in some very remote places, and you worked on some very, challenging problems which are not very, what should I say, even in the development sector, there seems to be an hierarchy of issues which need to be kind of addressed, and a lot of people kind of take the easier route of maybe doing education or maybe doing healthcare and all of that, but actually working in trafficking, actually working in a child's right, and then being supported by organizations. Not many organizations also support that. So what has your experience been in this field?
No, and you are very right in asking this challenging question in for the whole development space, Suparna. And I know you've been one of the advocate who like to facilitate this kind of conversation with different thought leaders in the country. If you look at the current funding landscape, I'll keep government of India focus. Government of India doesn't discriminate on one issue over another. They have a framework and they have been trying to address all of these issues. Now, when I want to kind of pull resources from outside government of India, so and largely if I bring in the corporates, who's been thinking and trying to adopt these kind of issues. Uh, I can bring in and name one of our strong donors and supporter, which is SBI Foundation. So like we have worked with the sex workers and worked with on anti-trafficking, but we were focusing in one of the West Bengal and Bangladesh border, which is primarily Kuch Bihar, and we were working on education with the children of the sex workers. But what we realized that we were working in a very small pocket. But with our learning, we realized that we need to scale this intervention. We also need to address how to prevent the second generation don't enter this whole sex work circle. How do you also offer alternative livelihood to the women who are into sex work, because they don't have much of exit strategy, and primarily in the development space, the focus, to be very sorry to say, that it has always remained around HIV/AIDS and distribution of condoms. So and we were really excited for foundations like SBI, recognizing this as one of their support interventions, and they have been supporting this initiative under SBI Sasakti program, where we are almost aiming to reach out to almost 2,000 sex workers, and to almost similar number of children, and prevent them not to enter this sex work. So definitely we have worked, and that's where we believe that we have to kind of come out of our comfort areas. Just working in the and from the AC rooms will not offer solutions. You have
Very
to be.
interesting that you mentioned SBI Foundation, because SBI Foundation organically, mind you, we've not signed any dotted line or anything like that, but they've become a patron for SABERA, identifying awardees. And as you know, SBI Foundation itself is one of the largest CSR spenders. And for them to have that wherewithal to identify these very unique initiatives which are happening in different corners of the country. I mean, hats off to them for supporting,
So
because
true.
even when we get entries, we see a lot of corporates, a lot of even foundations focusing on very low hanging fruit, so to speak, in terms of education, in terms of healthcare and distributing medicines and eye camps and all of that. But very few. I mean, I can literally count on my hands. There's also a very small organization called Kranti, and Robin Chaurasia is the one who's actually driving. And the kind of challenges she has to face because of housing and doing a holistic development of girls from red light areas, and the children that are born there, who know that place as their house. And there are such complex issues that she has to kind of, because that entire ecosystem doesn't want to let go of those children also, because
True,
ultimately they
true.
will feed into the cycle, and
So
so
true, so true.
the go-betweens will not let those girls go. There is the
Mm-hmm.
police which is there is, so, and to she's always struggling for somebody to support them, and now they finally, the acceptance also within our, so to speak, large metropolitan cities are not very accepting of having someone who's housing girls from, say, Kamathipura, red light district, next in their neighborhood. So the staying is also a challenge. So she's finally
So
got a
true.
place in Himachal Pradesh, and I'm hoping that one of the SABERA awardees also will be supporting the higher education of some of these girls. So it's very
Mm-hmm.
heartening to see organizations like SBI also coming forward to support this guy. What has your experience been when you get involved in impacts such as these? um, what is your thought process? Is there an anecdote that you may want to share? Is there a learning that you've had?
There's been quite a lot, Suparna. Even my uh, association with the non-for-profit space was very organic. It wasn't that I was studying to be in this space. It happened accidentally. But when it happened, I think it was a conspiracy from the universe that I should be here. And the idea that initially when I started working on child protection and building some of the framework, a ground level framework for prevention of trafficking, What I realized over the period of decades and so that just working on the softer part, working on building the skills is not sufficient, or working with the law enforcement is not enough. You need to leave something very concrete with the at-risk population. And that's where for me FXB had that kind of experience of offering those kind of knowledge and solution in-house, because poverty and livelihood was one of our domain of work. So if you look at all our anti-trafficking programs, is clubbed with livelihood opportunities, is clubbed with the skilling aspect of it, is clubbed with building the agency of the community, so that they take care of their own problem, because again, one of the harsh reality in the development space for the non-for-profit, that they will be largely dependent on donors initiative or donors money. Once donor
Correct.
decide that we don't have enough money, or we don't want to work, or your program is not yielding impacts, I have to say sorry to you. And since you mentioned SBI, and we have a high respect for foundations like SBI, where they are not there for media footage. They are not looking for immediate images. They are not saying that we need impact in 6 months or 1 year. If you start developing these kind of narratives, I think you will be derailed from the whole concept within the
Correct.
development space. So for us, those were some of the learnings, and working on the field reality, and it took some time, because initially when we developed this model, and we were very proud because even that model was recognized at the UN Indigenous Forum, because we were working with the tribal population. But internally, I was not very satisfied, because that wasn't the idea. Is not to say nobody is migrating, nobody is unsafely migrating. Even you have cases being reported on almost day-to-day basis that these many women and girls are being rescued. So why they are leaving that space, or their place of origin, is definitely they need some opportunity which is locally designed. And that's where it kind of brings synergies from our on the domain of work, which is poverty and livelihood. That how do you build those framework, and that framework will work very well even to those areas or to those community which are at risk. So you will have to really work on these solutions, Suparna, and the message to the community that you cannot be rigid on one solution, because time is changing. There are dynamics. You are ultimately creating solution for them, not for yourself. So when
Right.
you bring them in picture, you have to think for them. you know. So yeah, and which is very
I think
important
that's
to.
the reason why we need to have driven impact leaders. That's what a leader is in the impact space specifically. It's not about maintaining yourself within those dotted lines of this is what I'll do and this is what I'll do, rather than identifying uh, a problem and then holistically trying to kind of
True.
create a solution for that.
True.
What, according to you, has been your biggest challenge in the development space, whether it be a policy implementation, whether it be the funding part of it, or whether it be the actual problem that you had to deal with?
I mean, the immediate answer could be all of them. But to go even more deeper, I think to have a better clarity and sense what you want to do. Because when you are with community, uh, it's not accidental that you are working with them. Community doesn't know what is this donor landscape, what is this government of India programs, etc. And today you are with them, but after a year and two, when the donor decide that we are no more funding, you are away from them. So how community will start believing in you, or believing in the non-for-profit space? Those are some of the challenging questions which I think we need to address it collectively. But at the forefront, what I really feel is important, and I would like to recognize this, that even as a developmental professional, how do you design solutions? Because nobody at the end of the day is questioning your credibility. You are coming to the community with a package of solution and service deliveries. Whether that solution and service delivery is effective or not, it's something which we need to talk and we need to reflect on. And that can become scary, and that can challenge even your positioning in this space. So how open you are to take these kind of challenges, and that may increase insecurity for your presence as well. But how you are open even to address this insecurity,
Yeah.
and that.
And I feel the development ecosystem in itself needs to, because there are so many intersectionalities. I mean, with the kind of work that a large organization like FXB in India is doing, from village to anti-trafficking to livelihoods and all of that, there are other larger organizations that are also kind of doing that. So, for example, the village model that you spoke about, Swades is doing that specifically in Maharashtra. And I think they are also very open to sharing their knowledge. It's a matter of reaching out and connecting and to be able to create a kind of a model village, which you are also trying to do in the eastern part of the country. And
And that's why we have kept our the whole M&A framework in public domain. Anybody can go and look at how FX3 village model is designed. What are the stages involved in it. But the crux of it, that how do you build this resilience within the community, and that's where this aspect becomes very important. And we have all survived through a major crisis, COVID, and we know each one of us, in based of our capacity, we were active and we were involved. Now, what has been a very critical message, that the resilience of the community was the key to move them out of that insecurity and the challenging time. And over the period, that is something we collectively need to build that. And you will have several models. You named Swades, you named FXP, and there are thousands of organizations who have been working on this. And we
yes.
really need to develop on it. So
Also,
yeah.
another very significant change which has happened, which we've mapped over the years within the development sector, is that the dependence on international agencies funding them has gone down quite substantially. Now, initially it was that the international agency also came with a certain kind of that within that particular period of time, say for example, tuberculosis needs to be eradicated, and while they'll be working all throughout the year, and by the end of it, it will not you'll say that you managed to cure so many people and give so much, the drops and all of them to them. But when the new financial year starts again, then the whole the data comes back that this is the number of people that we want to kind of address. So, which essentially means that it doesn't make sense for people to actually eradicate the problem that they're working for, because that international money will stop coming. And I think that very significant shift has happened because of whatever reasons that have happened, for policies or whatever other. But the agencies themselves have also become kind of self-dependent, independent, so to speak, in terms of funds, and also with this whole CSR funding opening up and things like that. So I think we are in very exciting times when it comes to development agents, sector within the country, wherein people like you are designing frameworks to actually create an impact and not necessarily toe the line of some other organization that wants you to kind of tread on that. And um, I think what is your opinion? Because I've had a lot of these conversations with other people in the this whole field, and they kind of tend to concur with me. But if you have a contrary viewpoint to this, I would love to understand that as well.
No, it's an important discussion, Supan, and I'm sure uh, you will be open to have a different platform to organize that discussion, because that is important. Because somebody so I'm trained as a sociologist, and I don't want to bring in the sociological verbatim here, but somebody who has money, is at a decisive end, and somebody who's designing model and implementing is at a recipient end. So, and there is already disbalance created at those two end, and if you really need great work and good work to happen on ground, you need to bridge this gap, and come and bring them on one platform where there is a space for discourse and discussion. Because
Yeah.
the idea that, and I'm not claiming that I own all the knowledge and I have all the solution, but the idea that, are you open for that discussion? You have money, and obviously you have the right to decide that where this money will go. But are you open to learn and hear that what we have been doing for, let's say, 20
Yeah.
years?
Yeah.
So you need to bridge this disparity, and I think that is the next discussion, and the discourse need to happen, where we
Yeah.
bring both the parties on one platform to discuss.
That's the whole idea or the ethos behind Sabera, to actually build the ecosystem of this entire sector, and to address these very difficult questions and to be honest within the community with each other. I hope that your experience with Sabera has been similar, and we hope to be able to continue to bridge those gaps between the funders, the funded, the issues at hand, and so on and so forth.
No, no, I
Uh,
mean, and I'm sure leaders like you, who has dedicated your time and effort and energy for this kind of a cause, which is very important. And as you said in your introduction, we were one of your initial awardees, so you have traveled this journey, you have come across with numerous organizations working, yet you haven't forgotten us. So that's a testament to showcase that, how important is to work on these kind of building this ecosystem where you can facilitate discussion. So thank you, Suparna, for offering this platform.
Thank you. Keep doing the good work that you're doing. We're hoping that we can see some of more of your work through the eighth edition of
Yes.
Sabera this year. Of course, it's going to be in December as usual, and I keep, kind of saying that it's an important networking platform so that one can exchange these knowledges and learnings without the facade of being behind a large corporate or a large non-profit or a grassroots level or a bureaucrat for that matter. It's a very open dialogue that one can have, such that we can create solutions for the future.
Yes.
Thank
No,
you,
no.
Satya.
And salute to your power. More courage to you. Keep this up. And thank you for having this conversation. Thank
Super.
you.